Let me begin by expressing my sincere thanks to Asia Society, Culture Tree, Anu Sehgal for organizing this really important event. Before that, as you know, today was not today was particularly a tragic day in India. As you all know about the massive, the accident that happened, the crashing of Air India, leading to loss of several lives of Indian, British, and other nationals. So our thoughts go for the families and the people from all the countries associated in that. But I thought this being an important event, I must be here to come thank the organizers for discussing something which is not usually discussed. When we talk about Indian cuisine in New York City, the journey roughly started sometime in early 19th century. So about 1913, when we check the records, you come across a restaurant called Ceylon India Inn. That was 1913, opened somewhere near Times Square, serving basic Indian food to students, to seafarers, and to occasional curious local Americans coming and trying something called spicy Indian curry. But then now, 112 years later, you have about 425 restaurants in this city. And they are not serving only food, they are serving more than that. They are serving the cuisine, they are serving the culture, they are serving their creativity, and of course, they are leaving behind a stamp of authenticity in that. So last week, of course, we have Chef Vijay here. Congratulations, Vijay. We all are proud of your achievement. 3 years consecutively, he has been, Semma has been featuring as number 13, then number 7, and this year is number 1 restaurant in New York Times top restaurants of New York City. But if you get a chance, or rather if you are successful to get a booking in his restaurant, and you are there, you would realize that he deserves every bit of it. And I'm sure that is not the story of only Semma. When I go to other restaurants, when I get calls from a lot of well-known people who fail to get a booking in many of the restaurants, they think that probably Consulate can help them to get a booking. And so that's a proud moment for us when you hear that people are belonging to all Indian restaurants here. So I feel proud, whether it is Semma, whether it is Junoon, or whether it is Bungalow or Chatti, the new addition to the city, or any Tamarind, which has been there for about 24 years now. So we all really feel proud that you have converted each of these restaurants into something called an Indian culture center, promoting Indian culture, Indian creativity, bringing it to the mainstream. So it's not anymore a curry project. It's bringing Indian cuisine to the fine dining level, to bring it to the mainstream of United States. So my compliments for that. Last month, we celebrated something called 100th anniversary of Society of Foreign Consuls. So it's all the Consul Generals together. We have a association which is 100 years old this year. We celebrated the 100th anniversary. And without my intervention, they chose an Indian restaurant called Andaz to serve food there. So that's where we have reached as a food which can cater to all the palate. And coming to innovation, I'm sure all of them have done a great job. Whether it is Hemant Pathak's artistry in cocktail or food, or whether it is, Vijay's gunpowder dosa, or, we have Maya here popularizing Indian sauces for many years now, both as a brand as well as a product. Or, we recently came across stories about a couple, Sweta and Venkat Raju. They have a pop-up dosa counter in Brooklyn. They run it over weekend. But it's a long queue of hundreds of people coming to eat dosa there, and they make a perfect balance of parenting, their full-time job, along with this passion of running a pop-up dosa counter. So I would say, the innovation of Indian food. Recently, we tied up with Kolkata Chai Company. If you're not familiar, you should try their chai, authentic Darjeeling and Assam tea. This year, we are celebrating 200 years anniversary of Assam tea. And they do a marvelous job of promoting Assam tea, Darjeeling tea in a very authentic way. So something which started as a village market, tea stall is now doing real great work. So I feel that, these are people who have done real great job of being cultural ambassadors of promoting Indian cuisine, and not only expanding the market for Indian cuisine, but also, and expanding the imagination around what Indian food could be. So my deep gratitude and compliments to this community of Indian restaurant and the chefs. And let me also thank Anu Sehgal for doing this beautiful event. I hope this tradition continues, and I think we'll be celebrating more and more Indian restaurants to come into the top level very soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Consul General. Thank you, Neelam, Asia Society, and Neelam's amazing team for helping us put together this event. We were just joking last night, Neelam and I, it was almost like we were having our second weddings. The preparation has taken a lot of time, and thank you everyone for sharing their food and spirits with us. So we have tastings after this from Andaz, Jazba, Rowdy Rooster, Maya Kaimal, Rupi Beer, Chikka Chikka, and also AVS TV is our media partner. Good evening, everyone. I am Anu. I am the founder of the Culture Tree, and I welcome you to Culinary Crossroads, Innovating Indian Cuisine in New York City. So we are gathered in what many call is the food capital of the world. New York City is where food trends are born. Restaurants become institutions, and culinary stories are written and remembered. In fact, when the New York Times chronicled 25 years of dining in New York City, they honored innovation, struggle, and global flavors. But noticeably missing was Indian cuisine. That is until in 2010, Junoon came into being with elevated Indian food and fine dining. And Junoon has had Michelin star for 8 consecutive years, not an easy feat. And then in 2021, Apologetic Foods arrived with bold and loud flavors, changing the narrative with a spicy and a confident bang. That right here is the crossroads we will talk about and explore tonight, with 3 extraordinary voices that are reshaping the identity of Indian food in not just New York City, but in America. Let's start with a few data points. So India is a country that is 1/3 the size of America and with 4 times the population. And for those of you who know me, I work with children. So one data point that I always tell the kids to remember is every 1 in 6 people on this earth is Indian. So there are a lot of us. So the representation should follow. Indian Americans make up 2.4% of the population in New York City. It's 250,000 of us. New York has 18,000 restaurants. And as CG mentioned, 452 of them are Indian. Now, as all of us know, restaurants face steep odds. Half of them close within the first 5 years of operation. So food business is that of resilience and persistence. So tonight, let's talk about this moment. Chef Vijay, you ready?
Yes.
Where culture meets creativity and where identity meets innovation. But before we get into the question and answers, I just want to acknowledge also there are a lot of people from the food industry that are in the audience. If you're a restaurateur, please stand up and show us your faces. You can be a chef, you can be an owner, so that we see all the restaurateurs. If you are a food influencer, our voices right now, please stand up. And if you own a food brand, Indian food brand, please stand up. Maya, you're one of them. Thank you very much for representing us, our culture. We are so excited about this year. I just feel this is the year for Indian cuisine in America and worldwide.
There'll be a lot more years.
Yes, exactly. So the first question is for Chef Vijay.
I don't know if this works though.
Yeah, it'll
Can you hear
work.
me?
They'll get it on. So how are you feeling, Chef Vijay? And what happened to Ronnie?
Well, Rani's wife just gave birth yesterday, so let's congratulate.
So that's the reason we had the switch.
So,
Tell us how you're feeling.
well, I'm still processing. This is, I still thought it was a dream. Like, it's growing up in a paddy farm, in a small village with a lot of coconut farm, where there was, like, I think I told a lot of people many times, like, my grandparents, where they had no electricity, there was no buses, coming from such a tiny villages where there was no infrastructure at all, like 30, 40 years ago. So if you think about it, like, I feel like I just come somewhere from nowhere. Like, I think it's such a surreal moment. Like, it's a blessed moment. And I think I'm still processing. I feel very blessed, very, very blessed.
We are so fortunate to have you. So I personally think regionalization of global cuisines is the biggest food trend of 2025 and moving forward. And given that India is the most diverse country in this world, I have a feeling India is going to lead it. So please share with us the concept behind Semma and why it has become an epitome of regional Indian cuisine. And please also share your journey, especially with influences around culture, heritage, family, and especially your grandmother.
Well, the concept of Semma is, it's unapologetically South Indian food, the food that I grew up eating. I'm sure there's so many of people like me who grew up eating the food. The inspiration definitely came from mothers and grandmothers, where you always see them like cooking in the kitchen, like you grew up eating the food all the time. So that was the inspiration. And at some point you knew it just like, I was one of the chefs who was cooking kind of contemporary like Indian food or South Indian food, because even there's so many chefs like me, even back in India also, like cooking our own food is kind of like shame. Like, how they all make fun of you, like, when you cook food, like, what do you have to go to college to cook food? Like, you don't have to go to college, I can teach you. Like, there's always India, the professions are always like either doctors or engineers or like different profession. There was no like a cooking profession in India. So, people like me, is like even, if at all, if it is a cooking profession, then you have to cook some kind of westernized food to make you look good, right? If you cook your own food, it's kind of shame. Like, people make fun of you. I mean, like if you think about it, like, how other cuisines, like let's say Western, like Italian and French, other cuisines, they all have a very proud to cook their own food. And at some point, I met Ronnie and Chintan, how they're cooking, like, they opened Dhamaka. I met them when they opened Dhamaka. I mean, we were industry friends for a while, and then it was like, what? It was very fascinating to me, like how they opened Dhamaka and the cooking with all the food that, like, so many like Indians grew up eating it. So that actually opened my eye. You know what? Because I was cooking like South Indian food in California, which is a contemporary, little westernized South Indian food. Like, when I'm going to cook my own food, like, and then when I met them, like, what? This is the person, like, this are the people who I really want to be associated with. I mean, we randomly, like, just joking around, we just talked about, like, see if we can do it or not, and the conversation becomes so intense, it becomes so serious. Then Semma was born. Then again, the concept is like, we don't want to fit into someone else's mold, trying to be like, again, we don't want to make look good just because it's cooking somebody else's food. Let's cook our own food. Let's cook the food what your mother used to cook, what your grandmother used to cook. And that was thanks to Chintan Rani who gave me the freedom. A lot of business owners, they don't want to take a risk because, let's do something more commercialized. Let's make a profit out of it. It's too risky. Like, who's going to eat the snails in your restaurant? Like, snails, like why snails? Or maybe some kind of criticized why snails, because you're trying to be like a French cuisine because, you want to cook escargot. Like, that's why you're trying to put snails. No, that's not the idea. Like, people like me, I grew up in a, like I said, I grew up in such a small, tiny village where we didn't have a luxury to go to like a butchery shop or or any grocery store or any luxury convenience store. You just have to survive with whatever you have back home, right? So the food, where like I said, my grandparents, where every time I go visit them, there was, like I said, there was no electricity. They have to entertain you. Like, there was no TV, there was nothing. So they just take you for hunting. They just take you for, like, make you help them. Foraging snails
Yes,
at
the
farm.
fancy word.
Yeah, the fancy word. You can call it escargot. So yeah. So that was the, yeah. So that was the food that we grew up eating it, because that was a protein for us. Because we can't afford to go buy the meat, to go to the shop and buy the meat, right? Because that was the food I grew up eating it. I'm sure there's so many people in villages, till now they're eating it. And for a long time, like I said, there's a judgment in India, like, you're poor, you're from so and so. There's always some kind of judgment. So you don't want to share with your friends, like, oh, you can eat snails or you can eat so and so food. So I went to culinary school. They were teaching you, there's a dish called escargot. It's a French delicacy. I was like, what? Was this the food? I thought this is the food that we thought it's a poor people's food. So anyway, this is our story. We're just talking to Chintan Rani, like, this is the food you got to cook. And I kind of looked at them too, like, Rani, are you sure you want to close your restaurant in 2 months after you open it? So they were like, no, this is your food. You got to do this. So they gave me a freedom and, courage to do this. So that's how. So the idea at Semma is, going back to your question, like, the idea of Semma is, like, we just want to cook the food, something what we grew up eating it. And we just want to cook unapologetically. As you know, our food is spicy, and we cook everything on the bone. We don't really debone the food, just because, we're trying to, please the Westernizer or whatever it is. And that's how Semma is. And the rest, everything is, so we all been, as you know, we're just blessed with last three, almost 4 years now, with all this recognition and blessing. And it's everything just happened.
Yeah, and you talk a lot about, as a child, how you spent time with your grandmother and mother,
right,
cooking the food, and that was your training ground.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. They are the inspiration, and then they are the definitely training ground. Even though you went to culinary school, you learned some techniques, and definitely.
All right, Maya, I have a question for you. So you are one of the first to bring Indian pantry staples into the American mainstream. How has the wellness movement shaped or complicated the way Indian food is now perceived and consumed in everyday kitchens? And also, please talk about your journey, how you started. I know there is a lot with you and your father and the influence there. Let's take us back to that childhood memory as well.
Sure. So yes, the journey, I'll start with that part, definitely begins with my father. He's from South India, from Kerala. My mother's American. And so I grew up here in the US, and his food was a special treat, right? He was a physicist who just really wanted to figure out how to make Indian food because he missed it so much. So he taught himself, he asked every Indian friend he could for recipes, he wrote to his mother and his sister, and so we would eat those experiments that they kept honing over years. And so those recipes became our family favorites, and I took them with me as I went to college and cooked for friends. I took them when I came to New York City, and I just found that people were not used to eating home-cooked Indian food, right? Like real home-style food. And it really opened their eyes. And also my father being from Kerala, the dishes were different from what they had encountered in restaurants, which, so much a North Indian flavor profile. So those two things people were very struck by. So it created a sense in me that there was a lot missing from the conversation about what Indian food could be. And so that curiosity, I turned into cookbooks first, where I could take those recipes and share them. And then it started as a business. I sort of switched careers and got laid off from my publishing career. And my husband, who's out there in the audience, was extremely supportive. And so he and I started a business because there was, of making Indian sauces, because there really was nothing out there that felt like it had any kind of soul to it. You know, what was on the shelves was some kind of sketchy imports or just things that didn't resonate. I could tell they didn't resonate with an American audience. And they didn't taste like they were homemade. They had fillers and lots of sugar in them. And so it just seemed like not that we could do better to represent the cuisine. And so that was the idea behind starting the business in 2003. And then we've expanded and changed product lines since then. And you know, I think it's really true to say that Indian food, to your question about the wellness movement, is that there is a kind of a health halo around Indian food, right? It comes from Ayurveda, and you know, it's based on largely on plants and pulses, and so these, you know, it's intrinsically there. But I feel like for me, I was always about flavor. I was never trying. This was never a health play, you know. I wasn't trying to work that angle of it. But I do think that the wellness movement can, it can get a little too focused on functionality of food instead of, you know, what's sort of emotionally fulfilling about it, you know. And I think that Indian cooks really just take the Ayurveda, you know, as a given, right? I mean, it's just, of course, that's, you know, our food is healthful and has amazing, you know, properties to it. But they're thinking more about this, the emotional connection, and about the family, the heritage, the ancestry, and they bring that to their cooking as well.
Yeah. Hemant, so my question for you is around your spice-forward mixology. So you're considered the pioneer of spice-forward mixology representing Indian spices in America. So if you can take us through, how did you come up with the concept of doing all these spice-forward drinks and cocktails and representing all of India? And also, if you can explain to us, how do your cocktail concepts at Junoon and Jazba elevate the Indian dining experience, and what it does, and how does it pair with the innovative Indian cuisine? And also share with the audience what the difference between Junoon and Jazba restaurants are.
Right, so many questions at once. All right. Thank you, Anu. Thank you so much for having me. It's really an honor. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. When I started back in 2008 after doing my graduation, there was nothing called mixology like today's world. It was just cocktails we used to mix here and there. After winning some national and international competition, when I made it to this city and you know, doing some odd jobs, being homeless, and but I realized one thing. You know, going around, I could see a bar inspired from different culture, countries, and beyond, but there was nothing like Indian. Despite being a land of flavors with exotic fruits, spices, herbs, teas, that was really untouched when things comes to the beverage side of it. And Junoon gave me that freedom, and when they just asked me to be creative as possible as you can, and complement the cuisine with some spiced concoctions. So this is where the idea of spice-forward mixology came to the organization. And now, you know, I followed in last 15 years the evolution of our program, and you know, despite being in 15th year of the operations, I could see the success, and you know, entire spice-inspired mixology alongside a versatile wine program is very well received from our patrons. So thank you so much for that. And how that elevate the dining experience, I think this is very important part of our restaurant business, because food is a creativity which brings something unique to the house, but complementing that with equally passionate beverage program is very important, I believe, because this is how you create, captivate the entire guest experience. Junoon being a wonderful house, giving us a freedom of doing whatever we want to do. Cellar has over 400 labels of wine, a well-received mixology program. Last week, we introduced a new concept called Color Me a Cocktail, where we trying to tell the story of colors, because the significance of colors in life is personal from one to another. So this is the new program we just launched. That's Junoon. The other hand, Jazba, it's a fun, it's a soulful. Seeing how the evolution of Indian cuisine in America in last 15 years, there was a scope. The world opened up. India is a very vast country, and there are so many untapped possibilities which did not even make it to the mainland yet. So we went back to the roots, and it took us solid 27 months to put together the whole concept. In between, we hired a team of 5 cooks alongside our chefs and in India, and have them train there for 6 months. Because I think for me, it's very easy to say, like, I'm Indian, I know Indian food, but to an extent, So we travel because we want to kind of cover every corner of the country. So that's Jazba is all about, bringing some of those iconic dishes served by famous eateries across the countries and bringing that to the heart of New York. It's something we want to represent the side of the business. Yep.
And can you explain to us the difference between the two restaurants?
So Junoon, pioneering fine dining representation of the contemporary cuisine, where Jazba is soulful, bringing the best out of the corners of the country in terms of, for example, people talk about butter chicken in America, but how many of us know there is Aslam Bhai doing Aslam Bhai butter chicken in Old Delhi, and that is over 180 years. So bringing that as it is to New York City is something, Jazba does.
I have a simple question for all three of you. How do you get inspired? And what is your inspirational journey when you are coming up with a new drink or a new dish or a new product?
I mean, my answer is simple. I think, like I told you, the food, I just want to bring back my childhood memories. Something what I grew up eating it, what I grew up, grew up eating in the street or from home, from my neighbors. Something I just want to bring back my childhood memories. That's the concept. I just want to do something in an elevated way from the food that what we grew up eating. Yeah.
And how often are you innovating at Semma?
We're trying to switch it as much as possible every 3 months or 4 months. There was a few days it became a signature dish which we couldn't really take it off, and we have been switching the menus every 3-4 months. Yeah.
Maya?
I guess I try to look for what's missing, what isn't being represented. And so, as I mentioned, of course, Kerala is really dear to me, and those flavors, for whatever reason, have taken a very long time to get to New York. And so, so that I tap into that. And then also, I really love Desi Chinese food, and so we're going to be launching a new product line, and y'all can try it in the lobby. We're serving it tonight.
When is that launching?
So it'll be early 2026. So a line of different things, noodles and fried rice and stir-fry sauces that represent Indo-Chinese cooking, which I think is underrepresented and quite delicious. So.
And Maya's books are also available for purchase today.
Oh, yes. I have a cookbook outside if you...
So we work around a concept, bringing the team together, doing a lot of research and development back of the house, then putting that on a paper with a nice pen, brainstorming around and getting inspiration from across. And then we go for it, meaning it depends, what area of the business we're working in. Is it a regional side of the business, or is it like Southeast Asian flavor, what we want to bring to the mixology side of it? Same thing back of the house, every season, our menu is seasonal, meaning we change as per the season. And so it's a constant talk between front of the house and the chefs, like, okay, what could be the next idea for the next season? So that has to be a planning and, in advance in order to bring the right product for our guest.
And do you suggest pairings at your restaurant when people are ordering dishes? Which drink, which cocktail pairs?
So growing up, like there was nothing called pairing, meaning during our college days, we always heard and have seen of wine and food pairing. But at Junoon, with a systematic, program, we do suggest. We have a skilled staff who always going to come forward and suggest you like, okay, what could be the right cocktail or a beverage alongside the dish you are ordering. So that's always, suggestive selling is always there.
So my next question is also for all three of you. New York City has long been a home for food revolution. We remember Cronuts, yes, Smorgasburg, and also the concept of food porn, like really making it experiential. New consumers are craving spice, plant-forward, and bold global flavors, thanks in part to social media. So my question is around how are your specific brands using social media to tell your food story? And personally also, like I know each one of you have your own account, like how are you really trying to manage everything? Because it's a lot. I run a small business and social media seems like another business to run. So just talk about that and also storytelling of your products.
All right. I just want to give it a big round of applause for all the food bloggers, content creators, because today we see evolution of regional cuisine in America is, to an extent, this is a big contribution of the social media, for sure, because we cannot live away from that. And how you bring the raw material, like raw images of any regional or any side of the business to the mainland is something inspire us. So that is, definitely helps to set the trend, because we as a business, for me, it's totally focused on innovation and creativity, and bringing the best out of our food and beverages for our consumers, for our customers, and they will decide where the trend going to be, and but social media is something very important, and thank you so much to all of you.
Yeah, so I think clearly said, and what just like what Hemant said, I think social media definitely plays a vital role. I mean, besides social media, we also have we're blessed with a lot of other media also, who's sharing our stories, sharing our food and everything. See, I think like there's one example I have to give you, the first thing when someone sees me, like, oh, I saw you on YouTube, I saw you cooking. That's the first thing they always tell me. They also appreciate the fact that we had an episode called from the Bon Appetit, behind the line. So it showed all the audience what's happening behind the scenes. So it was like, oh my God, we didn't know, we didn't know there's so much happening behind the scene to cook a food. We thought just come to restaurant to cook food. That episode literally showed how much effect. I mean, they didn't show everything, even though they showed a little bit. It showed them some perspective of what's happening behind the scenes, how much effort goes into to prepare one meal, right? So I think it definitely and people started giving a lot more respect for what we're doing after seeing this, because they see that how much it's like a lot of people working day and night, without seeing the hours, 8, 10, 12 hours a day, it's a very labor-intensive industry. So I think it definitely helps, show our effort and hard work, what's happening behind the scenes.
I think there's also, some sort of connection with, say, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, which we can highlight with our specific restaurants or brands where there is regionalization involved and showcasing that part of India as well. Maya, how do you do it?
We do it through teaching people, showing people how to easily make Indian food. We're doing something very different from the chefs here, right? Which is giving people the tools to do it at home. But even still, there's an intimidation factor, or like, well, I don't know what to do with the sauce. And so, just giving them ideas for very simple preparations and giving them some tips, like quick, easy takeaways and backstories about, ingredients or techniques. So we very much use it for that, for explaining and just trying to make Indian food that much more accessible to people at home.
So what is the responsibility that you three feel you carry in redefining Indian cuisine and Indian culture in the American imagination?
I mean, Indians, sorry, can I go first? Sorry. Looks like we're fighting here. So, I think we do have a lot of responsibility on our shoulder. I mean, like for so many years, Americans, they all not just America, in a lot of countries in the world, they, Indian food is always associated with just the butter chicken or a few other dishes, right? I think there's a lot of regional restaurants that's coming up, and then they are, Dhamaka, Semma, Jazba. There's a lot of the restaurants Chatti. There's many restaurants who focus on regional Indian restaurants, where people are started realizing oh wow, this food is really flavorful, it's bold, and it's very tasty. We thought that Indian food is all about just butter chicken. We didn't know that. Thanks for showing this. So
each dish tastes different.
Yeah, and it's not just spicy, it has a flavor too, the herbs, it has a lot of medicinal value also. If you think about our food, it has we use a lot of turmeric, ginger, all those spices, which is so many healthy aspects of the food also. So I think it is our responsibility. I think we have a huge responsibility on our shoulder. Like I said, whatever has happened so far, in the last few years, it's been a blessing. I think we still have a very, very long way to go. We have so many. I think we show them very, very small percentage of what Indian food is. I think there's a lot more, lot more Indian food in different region has to be shown in the future. I think it'll be shown by future.
I would say trying to, I want people to fall in love with Indian food, right? That's my main mission, right? Just to see the immense pleasure that you can get from such a nuanced cuisine. And I fell in love with it, through home cooking, right? Through my auntie's cooking, and then my father's cooking. And I think that is, and I mentioned that before, but something that isn't as well understood, and yet it's so available. It's so easy to love. And so I think my trying to give that more of a platform is the way I'm trying to get people to fall in love with Indian food.
Being passionate about hospitality, I don't know if I call it responsibility, but I would say it's a journey I'm upon. So keep innovating, keep experimenting, keep making sure that keep representing the Indian cuisine to the level the American clientele never seen before. A decade ago, Indian cuisine was pretty standard across the board. But having all these panelists here, going around the city, looking into different menus, different creativity, now we realize that it's all about innovation. And for me, it's a journey. I just have to carry the baton and going around and pass it to someone else. The journey will keep going. Trend will keep changing. Experiences will be keep on changing as well. But it's a prime duty for us to make sure that not only America but the world understand Indian cuisine is not a one slice for everybody. It's not a cookie cutter. So that's what I feel.
All right, so we are going to end with a rapid fire. Whatever comes to your mind, and one word.
Scary part.
Scary part. So one word for favorite spice. We can start with Vijay.
This one ingredient called kalpasi, which is like a black stone flower.
Okay.
It looks kind of very weird looking spices, but the moment when you start adding in a hot oil, the whole house, like, it smells like it's such an amazing aroma. I think that's
Kalpasi?
It's called kalpasi in Tamil. I think in English it's called a black stone flower. I'm sure in Hindi, probably tagadpool, I believe. Yeah, they call it tagadpool.
And you use it at
Oh
Semma
yeah, we
a
do.
lot.
We do. Yeah, and also curry leaves. I mean, that's definitely that's yeah.
He took mine. Fresh curry leaves.
That's what I always go for. That's
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Fresh curry leaves. There's nothing.
All right,
like
second
it
for you.
Oh gosh, I guess I love. I didn't have a second one picked out. They're all
Share,
so
it's
good.
okay.
No, well then it would have to be black mustard seeds because
Black
they go
mustard
together.
seeds. Hemant?
I will keep it simple. Green cardamom, which we call ilaichi in Hindi.
Favorite Indian dish?
Mine would be from Kerala. It's appam and ishtu, the amazing coconut sauce that goes with it.
I like some humble food, just rice and dal or sambar. That's my that's the all-time favorite. Like,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Dal chawal, rajma chawal, any day, any time.
Yeah, dalcha. Favorite Indian restaurant in New York City that is not yours?
Oh my God. Okay, let's just cheat. Let's say you could just
I gonna say.
I'm gonna say.
Oh
Jazba.
my goodness.
I can definitely go to him for that gunpowder dosa any day.
Thank you. Well, let's say, I was gonna say Jazba. To be honest, I haven't been to Jazba yet, so so I can't really cheat. Junoon. Okay, let's keep it Junoon. Okay.
Maya.
Anybody serving appam and stew, which is like maybe one restaurant right now called Chatti.
Chatti,
But I love,
yes.
of course, present company acceptant. I love them too.
If you can, so this can be more than one word. If you can complete the sentence, Indian food is
Life.
life.
Finally cool.
Finally cool.
Indian food is a soul, like it's a heart and soul, like
Yeah,
I'd say.
yeah. Do we have time for a couple of questions? Any questions in the audience? Oh, Kanchan has a question. Do we have a mic for her?
My question is for all three of you. What is the most frustrating and common misconception about Indian food that you just want gone, like
It should
yesterday?
be cheap. Indian food should be cheap. That's, oh my God, please. Oh my God, that's the most frustrating thing ever. Like, not just the Indian food, all the ethnic food, like Mexican, Chinese, and please, I mean, we all have to change this. Come on, we know how much effort that goes into Indian cuisine, like, and how many, it's very, very labor-intensive cuisine. There's so much ingredients go, so many times, like, it's a lot of hours we put into it. And then it's just like, oh, I cook at home, like, why it's expensive? Like, come on, please don't do this. Please, I beg you.
That's a good one.
That it smells too strong.
I would say understand the sentiment of a chef. Try not to change when you go to the restaurant, and of course, and be on time.
Be on time.
Well, thanks for the question,
sorry
though. Thank you. I
Yeah.
think that's a really good question.
Any other questions? The lady in the center.
Thank you for doing this. So my question is, how do you ensure that the authenticity of your ingredients without having to push up, import everything and, make sure it's, especially with Semma and southern spices, which are not so readily available versus some of the other things?
Well, the spices we have to get from India, like, all the dry spices, like, all this cardamom, black pepper, everything. But the other ingredients, we just have to make sure, like, we get the like you want to let's start from producers or meat or seafood, whatever it is. Just think of home. Like how does your mom, like, let's say your mom cook for you, right? She goes to market, she get the best product possible to cook for you. That was the concept. We just want to make sure we get the best produce or like meat or seafood, whatever ingredients, the freshest possible and the best possible. That's our goal. That's what we're trying to do.
Your spices come from India?
Yes. Yeah.
I would say authenticity is something which is very important, and thanks for bringing it up. It's a constant, creative aspect of it. For example, it's different from Junoon to Jazba. At Junoon, our chefs go beyond to look for seasonal ingredients. Of course, that authentic part remains constant. For example, like some of the fish curries taste better here because the availability of the protein and the seasonal ingredients what you get as per the season, what we have collaboration with different farms. So that's Junoon side of it, where we constantly go beyond to think about, how to keep up with the ingredients quality, keeping the authenticity as our prime focus. Jazba, as we travel across the country with our team, so we try to bring the dish as it is, including the plating. So if you're having a tunde kebab, which is Aminabad ki galoti in Jazba, you will get the same worki paratha with that akhrot and mooli ki chutney, which is walnut and radish, and as it is, just as it is. Aslambai butter chicken comes with two different kind of flavored chicken and a rumali roti. So you just pick the rumali roti and pull the meat out of the bone and enjoy it with the sauce. So it's all about the travel and seeing things as it is back home and then bringing that to the mainland.
Oh, yeah, you want to add something?
Sure. I would just say that, it's a little different for manufacturing. There are certain resources that we have, and I have people who specialize in procurement. But I get very involved because I'm very, very particular about how these ingredients taste. I taste, if we have to get a new coconut milk vendor, I'm tasting all the samples and making sure that they taste good enough to be in our product. So we're very rigorous about making sure that from the options available that we get the absolute best quality that we can.
So we have one last question. Aarti up front has a question for us.
Thank you. So such a fascinating discussion. Thank you all, and great job, Anu. My question is just a little bit about U.S. consumer behaviors versus other consumers as it relates to Indian food. I think a lot of us in this room grew up eating Indian food every single day, and we've seen in the UK how frequently it can be consumed. But in the US, it's seen as a novelty, which is an amazing thing because it's so special and it's elevated and it can be for special occasions. But how do you think about making it more of an everyday consumption occasion for US consumers and making it a little bit more accessible and kind of demystifying that it's too spicy to eat every day or it's too heavy to eat every day, because we see the potential in other regions about how it can be consumed with greater frequency. So I'm sure as you think about, increasing your average unit volumes or increasing, your velocity in store, you're thinking about frequency. So curious to get your perspectives.
I will start. So when I launched my company, we did it as a refrigerated product because I didn't want it to be in the center of the store where people weren't really shopping. It wasn't exciting there. I wanted to be near fresh gourmet ingredients like pestos and things that people were buying with great frequency and really, considered high quality. And so that's how we established sort of the brand as sort of like trustworthy and got people to try us. And it's really succeeded in that set, but we could only grow the company so much. So we were able to then sort of pivot to doing shelf-stable sauces, which made it much more convenient for more people and more available in more stores. So that was how we were able to sort of first establish our premiumness and then go to a place in another part of the store. And that part of the store has really changed. I mean, we see foot traffic reports on where people go, and the global aisle is much more traffic now than it was before. I mean, it's like a destination now. So some of that is happening organically. Some of it, I hope, we're helping to drive people to that part of the store. But I think that, the American consumer is changing so much, and the, younger and younger generations are just more and more open to the excitement of global flavors. So, we try to tap into that, and, it all comes down to like how much money can you spend to sort of get the word out and promote. We're pretty scrappy, so most of what we do is just sort of basic promotions in stores and try to get people to notice us, pick us up on shelf. But I mean, we're just trying to make it very easy for people to discover these flavors, and put it in formats that are like ready-to-eat dals, ready-to-eat rices, and sauces that are just, we call them speed scratch, right? Really quick cooking with another ingredient. So that's our mission. I hope I answered your question.
Well, I don't know if it's gonna come off like a bragging if I say that. Like, I mean, as you know, like it's already one of the hardest reservations to get into Semma, as you all know that. I mean, it already clearly shows like how much demand we already have, not just from the Indian community, also from the Westerners. I mean, as you know, if any of you been to Semma, they know that the guest is like mixed guest, like not just the Indian, not just the Westerners, like whoever gets the reservation. So I think the demand is already there. I mean, the thing is we just have to do is they started realizing how flavorful our food is, how much. How like tasty our food is. I mean, in the olden days, like they used to think like it smells like curry. It used to be it's spicy, it's oily, like all those misperceptions about Indian food. I think it's all changing. It's pretty much changed already. The pretty example is like how much demand that we have to get into a restaurant. Even tonight, as I'm sitting here, at the notified list we have to get into a restaurant. It's about like 1,400 people just to get in one night on Wednesday night. So it clearly shows how much demand we have. Sorry, again, I don't mean to brag about it. I just want to answer to your question. So I just want to give you a clear answer. Thank you. Yeah. So
That's a great problem to have.
yeah, it is. It is. Yeah.
I think everyone is getting really hungry and thirsty, right? So I'm going to pass it back to Neelam, but I want to thank all our panelists for sharing their stories. You guys are doing such a good job in representing us, our culture in India. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks a lot.